6:01, call to order this January meeting of the Danville School Board of Directors. Now, interesting and abnormal, we're all actually in the room. There is no need for us to introduce ourselves around the room because we're all actually in the room. So if somebody was on Zoom, I'd be required to do it, but here we are. So we can skip that portion. And then I can move down to additions or changes to the agenda. There was a couple things that got cooking late Friday that weren't ready, but they're now on it, and you should have gotten a revision, and these packets show the revision that came late Friday as well, or Monday morning, I guess. So yep. I apologize for that. There was a miscommunication where I thought Matt said one thing and he said another thing, and then Brandon had a late quote, and then I had some stuff I needed to add that I was going to add anyway. So there's two things that weren't on the agenda and one update that we were hoping to get that we got, but it's all listed on this agenda. So no changes that I'm aware of. Did anybody have anything? No. Okay, good.
Do we want to talk about fashion doors publicly?
I think we've got that covered.
No, so it's on the agenda, and then I can make a determination at that point. Perfect. Yeah. So I gotta take my little baggie out at some point here. So that's good. It's on the agenda. We'll see what we get. My little baggie. All right. Moving on to the December 5th minutes. December 5th, we talked a lot about the budget. We talked a lot about some other things. Molly wrote the minutes. I reviewed the minutes. Do you have any questions about the minutes as they went down? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to
I
approve.
make a motion to approve this minutes.
The motion to approve the minutes from December 5th from Tim.
Second.
I have a second from Eric to approve the minutes from December 5th, 2024. Any questions? All in favor of approving those minutes, December 5th, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, I'm going to move down to the superintendent's report next. Good news. Again, this was in the report, so anybody have any questions for the superintendent? We can go that way to start with. Any questions, requests for data? Any questions on what Scott's got in there? And Mike, are you still completely buried in Barnet?
Pretty much.
Yeah, this is, so imagine that your job, that you were not employed here, and how much harder it would be for the teachers to have a backbone of,
Yeah.
Just the idea that going straight up the line, teacher, principal, superintendent, that you're not standing in that middle helping just bridge that gap and have everybody give a backbone. It's really great that you're there. It was one of the reasons that we needed somebody else on the job. It allows us to, we had to cancel so many important meetings to sort of scramble. So
I do want to give kudos to that team though. They definitely rallied, or they're rallying around each other and really trying to support each other, and trying to identify people within the building as well as at central office that can help out. And we've also had a lot of principals reach out to say, hey, I can be a support too. So everybody's kind of
so it's one of those things. It's not everybody's business, but then it is everybody's business because we're so interconnected.
Yeah. And
in this case, another district that's in our supervisory union just couldn't stand on its own the way they stand. So
yeah, with the size,
so it pulls resources from us, and that's why we're together.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Yep.
Any questions for Matt? Any questions for Mike? Very good. I'll move straight down, and this is the principal's report. So, do you guys have anything to tell us about the transition into the winter? Anything with winter wellness? Anything with kids not wearing gloves? Anything
which would not be well for winter.
Principal's not wearing gloves.
I saw a kid today walking down the street, and I just want to stop and give him my gloves, but it's too cold for me to give up my gloves, so we wouldn't take them anyway.
Winter Wellness kicked off today with high school.
It did, yeah, today was our first day.
Went really well.
Went very well, yeah. Cassie Vogel, our admin assistant, has been doing all the coordination, all of the scheduling, all of the tracking of waivers, permission slips, and monies, everything. It's been wonderful. She's done a really great job. So yeah, today was day one and it went really well. We have the winter concerts happen for middle and high school and elementary, since the writing well, no, the elementary's still coming up, but the rock band concert happened last night, and that was really awesome. It was a great experience. Kids did an awesome job. Really put themselves out there. Some wrote original songs. Just to hear, so.
The high school open house
Yeah, man,
yesterday.
yesterday was a busy
Busy
day.
Very
day.
busy day for you.
Right, we had our first open house for the high school, and that was last night. It was small, but it was really good. So it was an intimate, but I think well done event. And so we look forward to doing it again in the spring and having more attendance to that one. We had to reschedule it because of the snow. And so I think that now it's basketball season. So there's just a lot of things competing right now, but we're able to get some families in to see what our high school has to offer, and they seem pleased. So that was great. So we'll do it again in the spring.
Nice job.
And
And so with regard to the building and the function of the building, since I don't have a specific facilities report, over the holiday, there was one time when I was here and I slipped in the ice and I spread some sand for us before a basketball game, and we wanted to make sure that there were now buckets at the doors. But today when I came up to the school, I happened on Sarah shoveling snow and Cora with a bucket that came from the door. So everybody's stepping up to fill these gaps. It was just out to one way, but they weren't wearing gloves either. And
You hung
there
up
seem
on
to
the
be
gloves.
buckets at every door now, so that they're just the quick spreading of sand by any staff that says, oh, this would help to keep one person from falling.
Yeah.
So I know there's plenty of sand because I got Randy's key and I went into that
Yeah,
tractor room and there's a pallet and a half in there. So
yeah,
there's
that was
plenty
from
of it.
last year even.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
plenty of it. So
Speaking
And-
of the overbreak, Brandon installed the bathroom partitions in the bathrooms. The
Mhm.
girls looks lovely. I don't know what the boys looks like, but the girls look lovely. So you get on your way out, and then the Modine heater was installed.
Oh, that's nice.
Who was
Yeah,
that?
the
The
shop.
shop heaters
Nice.
installed, yep.
That's
Yeah,
great.
It was,
looks
that got
good.
pushed back due to the 15 below day. And I was like, yeah, here we go. But they came back on Monday and started it. I think they got it all done in one day.
I'll
Fully
go take a
finished.
look at that. Yeah. see if
Nice.
you'll watch-
And then
watch-
the old,
Yeah, we'll go check it out.
the old tube heater that was not working, they removed that. The other one's still up there. I don't see a reason to pull it down now. It's still a good backup.
Yeah.
Doesn't cost anything to leave it up there, and it does work if it needs to be used.
And you know where to put the dead one?
They took it.
Okay, oh, even better.
Yeah.
Up in the upper parking lot, I think.
You don't?
I sure hope not. They didn't ask me.
Let's start, you just start piling anywhere you want. You start piling anywhere you want, it's gonna be the next guy's problem.
No. We'll just do that with snow and it'll disappear. And then, there you go.
Typical.
All right, anything further about the building for the principal or Brandon? Since it's,
We did also over break, I got the locker room hot water going again,
Oh, hey,
which was a very close to bad call, because, or it was almost catastrophic. Because when we went in there to fix one problem, we found multiple other problems, and it was all froze, and there was water on the floor.
mm,
But we sort of slid through that and got lucky.
so then the crisis averted, but just barely.
Yeah. So, but there's now hot water.
It's good news.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. All right, anything else? In the student services report, we have that as well. I have a question on the student services report. It said that our special educators are each have to spend 30 hours at something called Fortney Gillingham course this spring.
Reading training.
How do you manage that? How do you manage that with subs? How do you manage that with staff?
Subs.
It's a lot, that's a lot of hours, and that's all during the workday.
We're not subbing.
We're not subbing for this.
They're just not doing services during that week.
Yeah.
To sub a special educator, you have to have somebody that's either,
License.
yeah, they have to at least be licensed.
Yeah, so I mean, like, how do you sub for a special educator and how do you sub for 30 hours for every one of them? So that works. Yeah.
It's ultimately the payoff is gonna be fantastic.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we also have our literacy interventionists doing it. So it supports coordinating instruction for kids.
This is the sort of thing that
Act
if we
139
can look for opportunities for this to do
with our
in
regular
the off
education.
season, in the off season.
This had to do with what was available and for funding available.
Sure.
So that's really, and I know that Ally and
Vicky spoke with the principals saying, hey, this is what we would like to do. Is this something we can make happen? That was taken care of back in the early fall. Does that sound right, ladies? Yeah.
It's
We
always a
don't wanna
concern with-
take-
it's always a concern with so many kids on IEPs, you know, that's all. The full staff.
I think that's exactly a concern that was brought up, and that's why they wanted to plan it through with the principals. It's something we'd be able to do. But the opportunity to have that great training and have it taken care of financially was the purpose.
Wish everybody luck on that. I hope there's no hiccups. All right, if you have any questions on special services, now is the time. If not, we can move on. We can move down to business of the day. We're gonna go ahead and start with the budget. And we have the potential for an executive session on here, but we may not need that. So it's just sitting on there. So we can talk about the budget open to start with. Okay. And I'm gonna turn the floor over to Matt and Mike and to Mike. That's where we are, Mike and Ceci. And real specifically, where we left it was the yield might change.
So the yield actually didn't change, but what was sent out in the revision is long-term weighted average ADM slightly changed. And also final numbers for the CLA came in. So when plugging all that in, you'll see,
Pull it out.
yeah, slight
You had yours
modifications to the previous version we had discussed about a month ago.
Yeah, we do have one person online, so we're gonna get that on the screen.
Yep, give me a sec.
We got time.
Yeah.
We're recording this, right?
Yep, we are. Board meetings. Ample minutes, Danville agendas. Today's the 7th. All right, there it is, and I will share. I'm trying to see what it's called. 2025. Not seeing it in my window to share it.
Definitely.
Bethany.
Only Bethany.
And and eventually. the
I can
newspaper-
share if it's.
Sure.
No, he will be. He watches
Yeah, it's-
after the fact.
Oh.
He's the de facto
not-
public.
For whatever
he's not the-
reason, it's not-
When you have the de facto, so that he can see what we're talking about.
I
Hold
can't.
on, Here we go. There it is. Finally got it. for me.
It ensures accurate reporting.
Great. All right, so. Can't remember exactly what the previous long-term weighted average ADM was,
522.
522.96, that's right, and now it's 518.99. So it went down a little bit, there's a lot of scrubbing going on across the state. All of our districts, many districts, not just ours, but were modified based on the re-scrubbing. And then we got a CLA that is to the 100th decimal place. I think before it was just 72, now I think it's 72.36, something like that on the previous version. So basically we have better numbers and we can now get much closer to a tax rate. That I think is pretty stable. With these changes, the tax rate is now $1.73, which is up 3 cents from last year. And I think we discussed this at the last meeting. If we wanted to shoot for a flat rate, we could either make reductions or we could use 130 of the 100 and of the 656. So we put a small dent in the local fund unrestricted surplus, dropping it to say 540. No, yeah, 540. the 530, sorry, versus the 660 that it's at now, you'd be able to make it flat compared to fiscal 25. So that's at your disposal. Those are really the only changes, slight, because of that, slight changes to the income sensitive rate.
So the budget that we're looking at, the numbers that we're looking at specifically includes the positions that we are not backfilling, the 4 paras that are going away, the 4 special ed paras and the other paras that are going away, and then the upgrading of the 2 positions in high school to full-time. It's the 2 were food and the other school clinician. So the school clinician going from 0.6 to 0.4, and the other one going from 0.8 to full-time, anticipating both of them taking insurance. Those are in there?
Yeah, so make sure, you went really fast. I want to make sure that everyone's
So
clear on that.
what we have originally been talking about, and then we had an ask at the last meeting. Originally,
Correct.
we've been talking about moving some positions down to lower the cost.
Yes,
And we eliminated several positions, and it was 3 that were not being backfilled,
correct.
teaching positions. One other one that was a para, and then in special ed, 3 other paras were more being eliminated.
Yep. And-
Subsequently, after I had that first meeting, at the next meeting in December, the administration brought to us a request from the building to increase the cooking teacher at high school from 0.8 to 1.0. Then with the anticipation that they would take insurance. And then additionally, they asked us to move the school clinician that was working 0.6 here and 0.4 elsewhere to 1.0 here.
Yes, correct.
So those are all in.
They are. That total last increase is a 0.6
And so-
in total between both
Yeah, in
positions.
total, yeah,
Yep.
in total. So with those 2 additions, minus all the other positions being taken away, we're looking at a 3 cents increase if we don't use any excess funds,
If we do not,
if we do. not.
And initially, was it 7.7 FTE total was it 7.7 that was taken out originally? Is that,
2 turns.
Yeah,
ago.
what's the next change?
Two turns ago, it was 7, it was,
if you count the SU para,
you count the 3.
Right.
and then and then you
otherwise
count
it was 3 just at the local level. not
Three at
at
the
the
local
SSU.
level, but the 4 at the SU level work in this building, so they count.
Yes,
So
okay.
living bodies in this building, it was 7.
We started with 7, I mean, that was cut, and then we just took from the savings and added in the
Right, so,
clinicians.
so basically 6.4.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're eliminating 6.4 with more than half of those being parents.
yes,
Okay, so that's a good number to have, 6.4 total. FTE.
6.4 FTE.
Yeah.
And of those, 2.4 are teaching positions, and then 4 are parents.
And then you said 1 is a para, 3 are special ed paras.
Yeah, I
What's
think
the
that's correct.
difference?
All of the
I think they're all.
Okay, all the paras are
Okay,
special. ed.
All
I had that
4
right.
are special.
I thought one of them was,
Well, did
who
some,
fills that?
so 4, I agree with that, but there's also, when you really look at the local level, that 2.4, the 3 that you're not backfilling, 1 is an alternate program instructor, right? That was previously ARP funded. A career technical para position, that's a para position,
Oh, that's the
Old
gen
Danville
ed.
work.
right?
Yeah.
And then the life skills para,
Okay.
so previously student support, so technically only
It's
one
it's
instructor,
So it's only
Right.
1 teaching position.
right, and 6 paras.
6 paras.
So essentially it was 2, we have 1 para that used to be the Danville Works. That was that para we hired.
Assistant, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it's only 1 teaching position.
It's worth noting that, so it's a 3-cent increase on the sticker rate. The income sensitive rate goes back to almost 2024.
Right.
It goes down
Yes,
40 points, and 2/3 of our adoring public pays the income sensitive rate, not the household.
well
But
said,
under
Eric.
90.
Well said.
Mhm.
So as we sort of look at that, I mean, it's important to keep that in mind that, yeah, that sticker is only a third of the time. That's.
Agree.
Yeah.
Only people making over 118,000 and or people whose houses are worth, that's the new number, then change the number again?
115. They just dropped it. Yeah, it's up, it's been on it was 128 the previous, so
It
since
was 118
2000.
last time I talked to you. I thought-
No,
It
115.
was 118 last time I talked to you in December.
I think, well, I must have
going
given
the
you
wrong
back.
But it's a number down that way. It's not a good
Look,
number.
since 2016, it's gone from 141,
Yeah, I remember.
actually from 217 147.5 down to 115. You know,
All right, so
steady.
so let's start position wise.
Mhm.
We're cutting positions.
Mhm.
Everybody understands that? Everybody's okay with that? Next, we're adding on 2 positions to make it more likely that they stick around because they can take the insurance. Cost us the insurance. Any issues there?
My only issue is committing to, I'm not at all talking about the quality or what this person brings to the table, but the position in general. Once we commit to a position, it's in plus benefits, what that looks like, not just this year, but next year. It's, you're not gonna ever decrease that or cut that, you know what I mean? It's either,
Right, it becomes a harder cut. Then.
Right.
It still it has the potential to be cut. Any elected position has the potential to be cut.
yeah. I'm not saying I don't want someone to have benefits, but it adds in, you know, we know it adds in a lot.
Yeah, a huge, what is it, $30,000?
Depends what they choose.
Yeah, up to that
One of,
much.
one of the advantages of creating the cooking position as full-time rather than 0.8, and with the cuts we're making in special ed, is that individual, that position will then be able to serve special ed students in our life skills program and potentially beyond, because they're here all day. When you're here for 0.8 of a day, it's very hard. In most other roles, 0.8 means 4 days a week, not 5, and we can't do that logistically with a high school and middle school schedule that share each other. So that person being full-time also is going to help serve special ed population, which is worth noting, I think, just because we're making special ed cuts this year, they're pretty deep. So if I can invest in special ed in any way, that is helpful to our student population. And then with the school-based clinician, Eric said something a few meetings back that we put a lot on teachers' plates. That's very true. We ask our educators to take care of a lot of things. And so to have a school-based clinician who is full-time rather than 3 days a week is another way to provide a service to our students that also takes that responsibility off the plate of our educators who already are overextending themselves as it is. So yes, it is a cost, and it's a cost that we want to invest in moving forward, that we don't anticipate retracting in the future. But I think the benefits of those, that 0.6 of an increase is going to far outweigh the cost of their benefits.
Especially with one of those resources being the mental health field.
Yeah.
And if you've been paying attention to what's going on in the Montpelier and East Montpelier area, you can't put a price on mental health right now. We're at an all-time high as far as need goes.
And that is across socioeconomic status and
And
all
it's
different
right down the street.
populations. Yeah, so
Yeah, and I think the
That is
other
all our
piece with increasing the mental health is that if we're not supporting the kids, I know you had brought up a concern. There's not, that support doesn't exist for that with, outside of our community, the wait list for counselors is so exorbitantly long. If we're not providing that support in our building, then we have to support these kids in other areas because those needs exhibit themselves in other ways within our classrooms and halls and building.
That's where we are with that. The additional spending, the taking away spending, the additional spending, the removal of some staff, the adding of some staff, the obvious things that we have to pay for that are out of our control, which is the increases in benefits, the increases in salaries that are already factored in, the anticipated increases for some other stuff. And then the last thing is the surplus. We're going to talk here about the surplus, and one of these ideas is to use the surplus to buy down these cents. But later in this exact same meeting, we're going to talk about using some of that surplus to improve the energy efficiency of the building and to improve the general comfort of the building in the winter. And so we have to decide sort of both of those things tonight, or at least one of them. Where's our money better spent? Saving people 3 cents or defending this budget as it stands, and then using the money to improve zone by zone the building itself that we know we can't do massive improvements on anytime soon. So to the board, the spending, the positions, the surplus, your thoughts?
When you say, I wouldn't say adding positions, I would say enhancing them. Because you don't want to make it, we're taking away, we're really not adding a position, we're just enhancing it from a 0.8 to a 1.
Yeah, I feel like it's an elected position, and I think that's part of Molly's concern, this is an elected. And, but can the elected be, is the elected beneficial enough since its inception? It's only been, this is, would be its third year coming in. And is it efficacious enough, and can you make it widespread enough that it's benefits the kids? And I'm sure, I know you can, I've sat,
You know,
I know that the position itself is, because I've been to several things that the position has built in the building. And, I think, I think it's worthwhile, but
And the
the
other
town
thing,
doesn't think it's worthwhile.
the other thing to think about within that position is that you're fortunate right now to have a person who's going to work a 0.8 position. If the person leaves, that's gonna be a tough position to fill. It's hard to fill a part-time position. And I know that that's sort of a unique position. So there's not a million jobs for it around, but it will be a very tough job to refill should that person decide not to
Well,
renew.
it refilled from 0.6 to 0.8 already. So we already had this exact same situation come up when it was a 3-year position, it refilled from 0.6 to 0.8. And it's probably not gonna go back down to 0.6 either. So that's the first question. That's the second question with the surplus. Any thoughts on that? We're gonna talk later in this same meeting about moving unrestricted funds to capital funds. And we're gonna talk later about temperature control quotes. So we're gonna talk about using this money.
I mean, I think we've spent 5 years now complaining about the building. We have some money that we can actually put towards it. The income sensitive rate, which is the one I'm really concerned about, was significantly lower than last year already. I feel like buying down a slight increase that's under inflation is not a great use of the cash when we have building needs.
I agree. We sharpen our pencil to get rid of, to get less positions. Now let's not just throw money on top of that. Let's spend it where it's best used.
So Mike, it seems like the consensus of the board is to look at with the positions changed, with the positions decreased, and without the surplus, and can you show us that in the budget? Take the 130 out and show us what the numbers
I
are.
don't think nobody's in there right yet.
No, the 130 is not in, if I,
There you go.
yeah,
I need to see it. So
sure, sure. So I can project real quick.
The only thing to think about, I agree with Eric, the only thing to think about is people were hit. I know we have people in the income sensitive group,
Mhm.
most of our town, but people were hit so hard last year that it is a way of giving that money back, then they can then decide in the bond, or they get to choose what to do with that money. It's a different perspective. I'm not saying I'm for one or the other,
I
but
think that there might be a way that we have the 130 in reserve so that if the budget goes down, we give back some of it. And we vote.
oh, we didn't do it at that point if it was voted down.
If
Yeah.
you needed it, if you
Yeah.
kept 130 in unrestricted, and then you needed to say, okay, we can give some back, then not make any changes to the
Yeah.
staffing and personnel, and then say, we'll kick in half of 130 to
Right.
lower it a little bit, and it just as a gesture. So to be ready to have that action if it's needed, but to
Yeah.
instead try to defend this for what it is, and that's just to keep the cooking position and to keep the positions, to make the changes to the staffing, which, and again, the line 1 of the letter is going to be, we are cutting jobs.
Right.
So that's, at Danville School, we are cutting jobs. That's the first thing that the letter to the public is going to say from the school board. Because that's what we're doing. And then after that, we're attempting to save the town money,
Mhm.
but, and hold in reserve some of the money in case we need to give it back. And rather than go back in and try to take away pencils,
Yeah.
if there's a situation where we need to redo the budget,
Right.
we can move just with a little bit of the surplus money.
Yeah, I guess that's a strategy it's there, we need it. If the budget gets voted down, then
You may have the ability to do both.
Right.
To do the projects that are needed for the building and potentially use it and still have reserve money
Right.
left over.
But
Right, and if
I'm just throwing that out there. You may be able to do it all.
we don't have to use
we got to keep
130
emergency money somewhere.
Understood.
the other,
So,
Yeah, but there's still enough money. He's saying there's enough money there. There could still be a reserve. We have the
Correct.
capital and, right, it's not depleting it totally.
And I think there's gonna be language coming from Montpelier very soon about what limits will be allowed to keep in reserve. Could be 2%, 3% of your normal annual budget. So all I'm saying is if you have the ability to have all three trifectas, right? Building renovations or projects that are needed, help your community feel that, because last year's increase was a 25-cent increase, as you stated, big. Keep it flat and still keep a couple $100,000 in reserve for that emergency fund and keep yourself below that threshold, which is coming. It's irrefutable. It's coming. The ability to carry probably beyond 3% of your budget is gonna be a real thing.
3% of 8 million is 240,000. So
Right.
if we had 130,000 in our unrestricted, then we're, well,
Well, right, I'm saying like right now we're at 660 for all argument's sake. Hold on, and you, how much is the project you mentioned?
well, we're not, so we'll talk about that later.
Okay,
So in this, we're just talking about what we're gonna do with the budget first before we crack that one open in this part of the meeting. So we talked about it in December, we talked about it in November. This is the budget. We can keep talking about it if we want to, or we can vote on it. I don't get to call, I just get to say if we want to.
but I can plug it in so you can see it for real. And how's that? So this is what you have in your hand is this budget right here. If we back away 130,000 and spend through the revenue cycle, of course, I'm just doing it to the bottom line, which is the ed spending need.
You're putting it back in?
No, I'm taking it out.
Taking it out?
I'm taking it out just to show that I'm not making it up, that you can get close to being flat.
Oh.
Okay,
I don't think we need to see it.
you don't need to see it. Okay,
Do you think we need to see it? Does anybody want to see it?
if you trust me, great.
170.
You've already done the calculation, so you already know. Okay, so forget it. Sorry.
What were we at last year? We were at
170.
170.
170, correct.
It actually dropped. It dropped when we actually got them.
We voted on 170.
We voted on
dropped to
160.
160.
It was 168, 167, something like that.
Voter approved versus actual.
Yeah,
Did
That'll all-
something
that'll
change
all
in
be
the
in the
CLA
report.
or maybe it was
yield changed.
the yield? That's what it was. Yeah.
Well, the whole,
Yeah.
that whole giant bill came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
yeah,
yield
yeah.
bill was
Yeah.
a nightmare last year.
So
Yeah, I wish everyone understood that they get the income sensitive rate. I wish everyone understood what all of this means, but in reality, it is what it is. If people go in and they vote it down just because there's an increase, they see an increase, that we'll just go back and, like you said, second round, do the 130 and
Well-
that might happen. It's just, I think, knowing that might happen and preparing for it.
I think this year that we just have to talk more in the actual town meeting room. There's a bunch of clueless people.
There's
in
so
that
many
room.
people who aren't in that room. you
Well,
know.
even the people in that room, we might have been higher than 13 ahead. We just talked more in that room. If I'd done a better job in that room.
Oh,
so,
no, that wouldn't.
I think even 17 ahead would have been better than 13 ahead. Anyway, so let us now. You guys tell me what you want to do right now. Keep talking about the budget. Because we can't table it. We got papers due tomorrow. We got papers due on this 15th with numbers in it.
I guess if we- Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I was gonna move to vote on that. You have something to say? Go for it.
I'm gonna be a stickler about this culinary position. I can be the sole person with that concern, but not putting the 130 in there, I guess I would prefer not to be a full-time position. If I'm the only one with that, we can move the budget.
Can we see if that even says anything?
It says, it changes it to 3 cents.
That changes it.
You mean
more-
just the culinary position? The culinary position is gonna change it half of 3 cents.
Yeah, I'm more thinking long-term. I'm not.
The culinary position is gonna come up next year and it's gonna be 10 years.
Yeah,
So every year that you have a budget, the
I
culinary
also
position
think
is
we're
gonna be
either
right there.
investing in our high school or we are divesting in our high school. So if we choose to invest in it, I want to fully invest in it. We have a high school, we're gonna have a high school next year. I don't know how long we'll have a high school for, but we have one now and I have real students now who need this access. And to move from 0.8 to 1.0 is 2 more periods a day of instruction, and that matters. In a school where we share staff with middle and high school. This is not just a high school position, this is a middle school position and a high school position. And if it could be full-time, also a special ed support position. Which again, I can't overstate enough if we're making the cuts, which are real people in our building to special ed. Those are real students being impacted by that too. And this is a person who is skilled, and this is a position that is well suited to supporting kids with special needs in middle and high school.
So Molly, we're taking $30,000 from the surplus and putting it on to cover this cost for this year?
I'm not gonna be,
not-
I mean, we can move, I just wanted to share my opinion, but I'm fine going forward, and if everybody agrees, then I'm not gonna vote down the budget. So it's not that big, I just wanted to share my thoughts on it, and
Because yours
maybe
aren't
that,
just yours. I'm
You-
sure there's quite a
Yeah.
few folks who have that.
So you're
yeah,
not the first
yeah. Yeah.
board member to have concerns about the long-term viability of the high school.
No, I'm not
They're
saying.
legitimate
yeah,
concerns. They're
No,
legitimate
yeah,
concerns.
it's,
And-
maybe could it just be a high school position and not the middle school, and, I think, that, yeah,
But right now is the middle school.
Right,
Middle school.
right,
Whether the high school's here next year, not year, 5 years from now, we have kids right now that could benefit from the services of that person. I think
Yeah.
that's what the administrative team is looking at and bringing that forward as a service that can be provided from a person who's doing a good job right now.
yeah, no, I hear
And
you,
just
for sure.
from a cost perspective, both of those going from a 0.6 to a 1.0 and a 0.8 to a 1.0. That total cost load for both of those people has been modeled at 41,000. So even if I subtracted it, it maybe moves it a penny,
Mhm.
is what I'm saying. So if you said, if everybody in the room felt this way, the tax rate would only move down to 172, it'd still be a 2-cent increase versus a 3-cent increase. It's 1 penny we're talking about on the tax rate, just from a perspective.
But a lot of your concerns are not this year. they're-
Right, yeah, it's once you have a full-time staff member, it's like $100,000, and,
It's incremental right now.
Yeah.
To 41.
no, like I
Right.
said, I'm not gonna not vote, but it's looking at other ways to, maybe it's great to have it in middle school, but if high school is a priority, maybe we do focus there, and, so, we can move on from this, but.
All right. What's the number on the budget? That we have to consider.
It's the
spend.
total spend.
The spend. is
Yep.
what-
Spend, which is 8,605,467.
8,605,467. This is before revenues. This is the one, no mistake. we made a
Correct.
couple years ago.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have to warn what we're gonna spend, not what the ed spend need is, but what we're gonna spend to run the school.
8,605,467. So for FY 26, 8,605,467 is spent.
Correct.
That's the right number.
It's an increase of roughly $300,000.
An increase of roughly
We don't have to do the
$300,000.
wording right.
301.
Just spend X, which we just gave
Per then.
Right. And that's with a 12% increase in health.
per pupil spending. We gotta be ready for this. Right here.
An unavoidable 12% increase. We're getting there by cutting jobs.
And I mean, cutting a lot of jobs that,
We're getting there by cutting jobs.
Mhm.
that we need.
Yeah, and so if it's not working, and that needs to be cut, it's cut. This isn't a guarantee. If there's something that's not working, if it needs to be trimmed, it gets trimmed.
All right, folks, action or no action?
Eric was in the middle of doing
He said
something.
he just stopped doing it.
Oh.
You wanna do it?
Yeah, I'll move to approve our budget of $8,605,467 for FY 26.
Second.
A motion and a second for the spending for FY 26, $8,605,467. I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the budget for Danville for FY 26, $8,605,467 to present to the voters? Please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you, folks. I know it's hard. I'm-
We have to- we just do when I
The
worry
only
about that
options.
later.
Yeah.
We can't do the warning until
I
it's like the
I promise you,
16th.
2 years ago it was him. Like
No, my name is on record the last 15 years to be the only person to vote no on so many things.
And
that-
immediately.
There's
By the
nothing-
year here.
there's nothing wrong with voting no if you don't think so.
Because they'll need
I
to sign
would
it,
vote
can't
no.
sign till the
Yeah.
16th, so
I'm
let's
not
go ahead
doing
and
it.
draft the
Yeah.
letters the best we can.
We hear you. Okay, So where that puts us right now
They're gonna have to prove it.
is everything else I have is not finance director related. You're certainly welcome to stay. I'm gonna see you tomorrow at 2. I want to, I'm not bringing you a sandwich,
No, thank you.
but you can go today.
But I just have one question for the
Question about the
board
boarding. Yeah.
about the warning. So, you know, I want to say, was it meetings like this when you approve how much to spend?
We don't, a special meeting about the warning coming up. We got to
It's
push
a
him.
separate meeting.
It's a separate action to approve the warning.
Sorry.
And so he's got to be coached up on how to write one.
Right.
And then we're gonna call another meeting here very, very shortly to
Great.
approve the warning.
Great.
I have some questions coming up later about what's going to be on the warning.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
all the
there's been some
articles.
slight changes to one of the articles per the state statute.
So,
It's very small, but we just need to be and he
Right.
knows what it is.
yeah.
We just want to
And
plug
so,
it in.
right, so this is, so that's a him thing,
Okay.
and then it's a you thing. But
Okay.
the warning is not a you thing more than it's a him thing. He
Okay.
does, I agree,
Yes,
so the thing needs to be discussed.
okay. With all, with permission, I will go by.
Yeah, rock out.
Thank you.
Okay, so where we're gonna go now is temperature control quotes. We discussed this, the consensus of the board had been that, wow, that sounds like a great idea. I hope it's really cheap. And then, I don't think it ever was going to be really cheap. And Brandon, you were seeking out, you had one person who could do it and you were seeking
Yeah,
out additional quotes?
yeah, so I
Can you
had
tell us where
the,
we are?
I had the original quote and I reached out to 2 more contractors. And I was only able to get one, and I attempted to get in contact and emails, and I am getting no responses. So from the, I don't know what the rules are as far
The,
as,
the rules are, if you have a quote and you have another quote and you've made an attempt to get a third quote, you've
Yeah.
done your due diligence.
okay.
You can
So-
declare it as a
Well
sole
done.
source.
We have
And the crazy thing is this quote I met with him like 2 weeks or something after the other one that I was still waiting on. So I tried with the other one and I've got nowhere. With this quote, which I finally got on Friday, let me tell you, it's hard to get quotes like this in a short period of time, even a month period of time.
Well, and the other quote we sent into, are they both in there?
I only have the new one.
Yeah, only the new ones in
We-
here.
Okay, we sent the other one to Katie, I thought, too, to put it in, but do we?
This
wanna-
is the most recent one.
I think what she's just saying is to compare the two
But we need,
prices.
they need them both to compare them. Do you guys want it?
No, it's 2 different ones.
It's two different. so-
I got you right here.
So with this quote too, I think there was some miscommunication with what I wanted from the guy. And this is the same work load, but he was not including the valves in the price, because I had said there was like back and forth, does he install the valves or does we have another contractor install them? With the original quote through TCV, they supply the valves, they do all the wiring, they do all the programming, and VHV would come and install the valves. They just do the labor side of the valves. With Northlinks, he thought it was the same, and when I left with him, I thought he was doing it all. So this quote doesn't even include the valves, and it is more expensive than TCV, who I've worked with in the past, and I had, a good work relationship with them. It's more than theirs, and theirs includes the valves. So I would lean towards going with the TCV quote, and then VHV would be the ones to come and actually cut the pipe and solder in the new valves.
Yeah, now these quotes are given back in October. Are they still good?
Well, the
It should say on the
TCVs didn't
quote.
say, I looked at it and it
Well,
didn't
the quotes, they
say.
usually say it'll be valid for
Yeah,
X
and it
number of
doesn't.
days.
Neither says that.
I think VHVs did, but that's all labor, so I really doubt that it's gonna change a lot, because it's just labor, it's not.
Oh, the quotation is guaranteed for 15 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
back.
so we
And
have,
some of this was like, I didn't even know when I was gonna get.
yeah, okay, so it's okay. So we can just, this is not,
Sent the other one.
no, so I think that what we have now is we have 2 separate quotes that we can look at and we can compare as forward. And we're gonna have another meeting here, pretty much lickety split about the warning. And so we can defer action until that point.
Okay,
On this
so then
particular
I'll
summer
wanna
quote. And then
update.
this way you can work it up better, but we were hunting this down and I'm glad you got it. So now you can stop looking for a third quote.
Yeah.
Because you've done tons of due diligence in this last month and change to try to get a third quote.
Right.
And so between these 2 quotes, you can maybe help, just put them together in the document, put them on the next meeting agenda, send it to Katie. write up your recommendation for who we should go with
Okay,
and why. And then anticipate us voting on that at the next meeting, which probably won't be that probably before February. I would think that we're gonna be middle of January.
Do we need to have them all together? I mean, we have. the
So
one-
we have them now and we could vote on them if we
Well-
wanted to, I guess.
and one thing I would say is that they're quotes, and this building is old, and there could be
Unforeseen.
unforeseen problems. So at least from what I've gathered, when you guys approve or vote on something, you say up to a certain amount.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's just something that you could do now up to a certain amount, and then I'll work on getting the updated amounts. And if it stays the same and there's,
We can't over exceed a quote like that. So we
Okay.
can't say, like, if that says $265,000, I can't say up to 300 based
Okay.
off of nothing. Because that just sort of gives, that gives you rope to hang yourself with. If that
Okay.
makes sense. That gives you spendable money that might put you in a position where you would look improprietous.
I think
We don't want that.
the other thought is that this is all public knowledge, and if they were watching the new, the meeting and things of that nature, they may go ahead and say, oh, there's some extra dollars over the table if they were being unscrupulous.
Yeah,
Yeah, the other thing that we can do,
But you're correct.
if there's
And we could have-
unforeseen things.
Right, I
then
just-
we come back to the board and say, we
We
have
need-
this.
okay,
extra
yeah,
money.
I'm still new to a lot of this kind of
You're
stuff.
doing,
so-
you're doing fine.
My concern
Doing
about
great.
waiting and.
Well, we're not waiting.
Well, even if we don't vote on it until February, if that was what you were just saying.
No.
We're meeting again in a week.
Okay,
Well, yeah, I'll do my best then
Right,
to,
we're meeting
I'll take that
again in
within
a
a
week.
week.
We're meeting in 2 weeks. And this, what we don't have is a proposal.
TCV
one
was
quote,
190.
And him telling us which one he thinks is
Gotcha.
better.
And then they
And
also
so
included
it might be
VHB
better for us to
though,
have the
in that
facilities
one
director
job.
write up a
That's what they're like
recommendation.
18 something.
yeah, so VHV is 18,454. 18,000
VH, what was it called?
VHV.
VHP.
V, Vermont Heating and Ventilating.
Okay,
And then TCV is 190 flat,
TCV was 195,
190
190.
flat,
190 flat. And then VHP was
18,454.
There, seems- Are you ready to do this now?
Yeah,
I'd rather get them on the hook now.
I don't see the point in waiting. I mean,
And then the
And if
reality
it
is
goes
we
up a
might-
little bit,
Well, we
can
might
you
have to
just-
just, we can
add in.
add in our next meeting,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
if there's an
But-
increase.
I mean, we have $615,279 in the unrestricted
It
fund
would
at
be
this
good to get
point.
it committed to something, for sure.
So let's.
And
do
this
that.
is our biggest
Concern.
problem with the building
Well.
that we can
every one of
address.
our problems
how much of
are
that
big
money do
that
you
we
want me to
can address.
spend?
Yeah, tangible, I agree. Tangible.
So
Like Mr.
Eric's
Burns,
making a
building's like
motion,
Mr.
I heard.
Burns, he has all the diseases.
I will move to spend up to $218,454. For the-
208,000, right? 190 plus 18.
190,
208,000, yep,
Yeah.
208, 454.
just 18.
What's that?
Just 18.
You said 18.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, who are the two vendors?
From TCV and VHV,
TCV and VHV.
the heating control and
For a
valve.
complete revamp of the heating control system to include
The-
zones in every classroom.
Yeah, it's not an
Yes.
entire, not the whole system, but the valves and.
And this is mostly in the 37. and 50.
For the
No,
full,
it's
whole
throughout the
building.
whole building. It's not the entire heating system. There's plenty of other.
Finish what you're gonna say.
I was gonna say, for the proposed scope and
There
in
we
both quotes.
That'll work.
Okay.
I have a motion, I have a second. Okay,
Can we put, upon the recommendation of Brandon
we,
in the motion?
we have to, yeah, so I think it's very important that, not that you're on the hook, but that we're taking your recommendation.
Yeah.
And then from the unrestricted fund.
From unrestricted fund. That's the motion.
So
There's a
tomorrow,
motion
I'll
there.
reach
There's a second.
out, hopefully line it up. And the prices won't change.
We agree with all those hopes.
I think that was my original reason for waiting. Okay, I'm ready for it. Any further discussion?
Just note that this would leave us with 406,825 in unrestricted funds.
This will lose 406, okay,
Mhm.
406 and change. That's good to know for just a couple minutes. All right. So hearing none, all in favor?
Oh, we need a second, we need a second.
Tim Tindall.
Oh, you did, okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Tim's job.
If there's no further
Usually I'm-
questions,
That is
I'll call the question. All in favor of this expenditure from unrestricted funds, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. Keep going. Okay,
So I know, let's say this project goes through, we're doing everything, and then like some big expense comes up, what's like the attack on that? Do I come straight to you guys and
So
say?
What was the question? I'm
Like
sorry.
if all of a sudden there's like, this is a big problem,
Me.
you just go straight to you, okay?
Yeah.
I just wanna know.
Or
You
him,
could tell
whoever's
us,
in
you
the
should
building.
tell
Yeah.
us, but just a heads
Okay.
up.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah,
you were-
they'll
you were-
notice there's a problem, I'm sure.
You'll know before me.
But-
It feels cold.
It'll get to us eventually.
Yeah.
It's gonna have a big sit.
All right.
It's gonna-
I took culinary in high school one year.
We got a good
I can
culinary
bake.
teacher right here.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
so we're gonna move down from that one. And you don't get to leave. Now, how about that other guy go? You don't get to leave yet. The next one's gonna be classroom tours. And I had a discussion just prior to the meeting with both principals. And they both seem to think that we want to do this in an executive session because it's a school safety issue. And I tend to agree. That I think that if you guys would allow us to, we would go into an executive session that would be one VSA 313A5, which is clear and imminent peril to public safety, and it specifically regards school security.
Can we combine the executive sessions together?
No, because
You
the
get
other
to
one's
come,
a parent request. There's only time for one thing at once.
Different.
Well, I guess maybe when it goes 313A10, security or emergency response measures, if disclosure could jeopardize public safety. So I'm looking for a motion from somebody to go into an executive session at 6:52, 1 VSA 313A10 to discuss a school security issue.
So moved.
I got one from Tim.
Second.
Too slow, too
Who's,
slow.
are we
Oh.
kicking anybody out in this executive session?
In this one, I need Kiara to sit in the hallway just for a couple minutes.
sorry, Kiara.
Everybody else can stay. I need Brandon because it's about this second from Eric to move out of executive session at 7:03. All in favor of moving out of the executive session at 7:03, please say aye.
Aye.
We're out of executive session. It is 7:03.
Recording is restarted.
The recording is restarted. The board takes no action.
Good information.
Now, do I get to go bye-bye?
Let me look.
Kiara died, I think.
No, you gotta stick around.
So,
Is there anything else I need here?
No.
I didn't think so.
yes,
So
need to go
you
back.
were,
Okay,
Bye-bye.
the rest of it you're good on.
all right.
Thank you,
so much. Yeah,
Brandon.
Delman.
Good
Yeah,
job,
have a good
Brandon.
night,
Thank
guys.
you.
Take care.
All right, next on the agenda, we've talked about this once a little bit, moving funds from unrestricted. Finance director recommends that we move quite a bit of our funds from unrestricted that we haven't spent. We're going to talk about maybe moving some from the mission and vision fund also, but moving them only to capital. So this is actionable on tonight. And I don't know if we have a number recommendation, but I think we have a pretty good idea where we are, if we're at $406,000.
I would say we would wanna, well, if he's saying 3%, if we leave 240 in unrestricted and move the rest
So
into capital.
my thought was to leave 130 and move the rest.
Not very much, so.
How much is
Is it-
it
no, the-
mission and vision?
130
40,
unrestricted.
Oh, the 130 is the budget, right?
40.
Yeah.
No,
130,
it's
so the 130 is the magic.
37.
Yeah.
37, we spent 8, it was
36, so
43.
in mission and vision, there's 37,
How much was it originally?
50,000. But that money was already voted on by the town that we could use it for enrichment. So
Yeah.
moving that, we have unrestricted to move over in its stead. So this is,
I don't support moving the mission and vision fund. I
I
think
agree.
that the money that's there has been used appropriately for what that money was intended for. And if that's how it's going to continue to be used, that makes sense to me rather than putting it in the capital fund.
I agree.
Because it's been used for the, like, year after year for the same.
yeah, I mean, it largely saves fundraising and allows the teachers and the leadership team to branch out and bring better.
Yeah, and I think that's very different than a capital fund, and I think that we want to leave that there.
As we've seen from the quotes, it's not like that money's gonna put a dent in anything that we wanna do.
That money versus what we just saw is, drops in buckets.
Yeah, but I would think, I mean, so he said 3% of your expenditures, we have 8.6 million, so really it'd be
240.
about 250, but if you say 240, you're you give yourself some breathing room.
But you don't have to leave 3%, you can leave less, if it's less than 3%, then if they say 2%, if they change it to 2%, then you're covered as
Is
well.
that 3% a real number or
We're gonna
or did he say?
It's a prediction.
Yeah, you'll have time to move
Yeah,
it at
no,
that,
we don't
when
know.
you
Yeah.
find out, you'll have time to move it. They won't be like, oop, we're gonna take it.
So the only urgency for now
Right,
You know, they're not
is,
gonna take
if
money
we're-
away.
they're not,
I
they're,
mean, meaning like you can.
they're
find a
just gonna force
number.
you to spend it.
Yeah,
gonna
but I
take it
think
away
we
the-
have enough things to spend it on, that would be fine.
We're getting door locks.
I don't think
So
it's
the
a
reason,
problem.
the reason that it's
I'm gonna
up
buy new
now
doors.
is moving the money from unrestricted to capital, is that we have to take the action, the town has to vote on.
Right.
At town meeting, so it have to be, it's a warned article,
Mm.
and so it would have to be a line of the warned article.
And the
Is-
idea is that
is this the recommendation of administration that we move some of this money?
I believe that'd be a good choice for us to kind of protect ourselves in the future going forward, go ahead and move some.
So
And
why don't we do that 3%? You don't know
So if,
what,
if we're gonna move, if we think we're at 406, and we think we're gonna go to leave 240,
you're gonna add in the 130, so 3% plus the 130, just in case we have to
Well,
use it.
the 240 would have the 130.
the 240 got the 130 in
Oh,
it.
okay.
258.
158, 156, right? 166,
I thought it was
406,
That's a lot of numbers there.
$406,000 roughly, based on what we just spent. If you want to leave 240K in
Of
there,
the budget.
then you get a 6. You get 166 or 156?
I thought it's 66.
166. So we would be moving $166,000
166.
Yeah.
from
Making me
unrestricted
go crazy.
into the capital fund. And the capital fund currently has about $30,000.
166, you said?
Yes. From unrestricted to capital.
Okay, leaving.
Leaving 248, 240,
240.
leaving roughly 240,000 in unrestricted.
What's the total that's in there right now? Did you say, Eric?
We think it's
It's in here.
406 after today's action.
406 after today.
That, and then the numbers are right. Okay.
And then in the capital fund currently is 27,670.
So 27. And if we move over 156, we get close to 180, close to 190. That we intend to spend on the building. And that money can be spent on the building for capital projects, and that's fine. And so the action itself on tonight would be that we would move to write a warrant line to the town, pretty sure. That we would move to add to our warrant, we petition the town to move
$66,000.
$166,000 from the unrestricted fund into our capital fund.
Yeah, I think that's about the extent of it.
That's what we're doing, and we're gonna do that at town meeting. So that's at
Yeah.
town meeting in the warrant article, but it's an Australian ballot article, so it's gonna be on our ballot.
Isn't that a voice vote?
All budget stuff goes
Yeah, it's on the ballot.
via the ballot. The only thing that we vote as voice votes are elections of officials.
Is it a budget thing? Because it's a movement of.
It's no bit of money, all money goes
Okay.
Australian ballot.
Hmm.
And so we'll have, on our ballot, we'll have probably 8 measures on our ballot, maybe 9. And a lot of them are money. There'll be the budget itself, the number itself. Then there'll be the, can you borrow 90% of
borrow?
it to cover your funds until the tax day comes in? And then there'll be this one, and then there'll be another one, can you use something else? There's a whole big thing. I'm gonna pull up the one article from last year, we can look at it. Look at that. When we do the articles next week, we can probably look at it, but for right now, let me do some homework on that one, get you, let you see last year's and the year before and the year before, so that you can get an idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
For the meeting. We have to ask every time we want to move money like this, we ask the town, warrant article. So the motion tonight, if we're gonna do this, would be, would you want to ask the town in a warrant article to vote on moving $166,000 from our unrestricted reserve to capital reserve? If so, you'd have to make that motion.
No, I'd say,
Is that
I'll
a
make that
motion?
motion. So moved.
So I have a motion and a second. Is it, now, do you guys understand any further discussion now? You ask me again, you want me to look it up now? So I can find the one from a couple
No.
years ago?
No, I understand what the warrant was, the voice vote. Was
Yeah, no,
because I remember the special ed fund got set up. I feel like that was a voice vote because there was, God, there was a long discussion
a long
about it.
discussion. We talked about it out loud as a, talk about it, but it was on the ballot.
Okay, I feel like that was like a 2 hour conversation about
This one will be, this one will be too.
I'm not positive, but I believe the mission and vision fund was also on the ballot.
Yeah, it was ballot for.
Because it was money in the budget to be put into a bucket for,
So yeah, and then the special ed spend didn't have to come back, it didn't have to vote for him back out to use it,
Right,
only to set it up.
right.
And so this one on the movement, I'm pretty sure we have to have a ballot measure. I'm sure we have to have a ballot measure, and if I'm wrong.
I will
rescind the
bet.
motion. So we'll have a motion, I have a second to move $166,000, to ask the voters if we can move $166,000 from unrestricted fund to capital fund as a ballot measure. Motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We'll do that, and this is one of the things, Matt, we have to get together and practice
it'd be
writing
good
these
talk.
things.
Yep, I
Katie's got all
started,
this stuff. She'll have all this stuff to show
I
you,
started looking at them today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and then we can put it to, I could probably come in Friday. if you want.
That'd be great.
Working through this unrestricted.
I had a hard time finding what I found 2 years ago. I'm just amazed, for each town, there's a large number and just trying to make, it'll be interesting to learn about.
It's a lot of learning. And again, this is what you call the lawyers. A lot of that, make sure with the lawyers, everything goes through. If you spend $80 because PHO looks at it,
That's money. Yeah.
$80 well spent.
Yeah, when we were coming up with wording for a loan for Cabot, I did the same. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on from that, with student representative follow-up, I had intended to have information, but I've not had a chance to get back with Natalie and have a discussion about Kiara, who was here. Kiara is here.
She's
again.
diligent.
Yeah,
She's been-
she gets picked up at 7, so
Yeah.
we were in executive session still, so I extracted
thank you.
myself to give her back.
So,
This
Natalie
is,
and I are gonna set up a meeting to discuss this. You guys are, I can let you know when the meeting's happening. If you want to participate, that'd be great. Talk to her just about the role, the job, but she seems pretty willing. You guys,
She sat through this
I
one.
know.
so
she sat through
Yeah,
she sat through
yeah.
2 now. I mean, she's diligent.
She's, and they're not thrilling, so she's doing great.
And this is after sitting in driver's ed and all that. so
Yeah.
she- She's dedicated.
What grade is she? Sorry.
Um,
She's a
She's
junior.
ninth, isn't she?
Yeah.
10? I thought
I
she was.
thought she was young.
She's a junior.
11.
She's, okay, so but she can, hopefully we'll sign on soon.
How do you say her name again? K-I-E-R-A?
K-E-A-R-A-H, Kiara, or with K-E-A-R-H, and the last one, Richardson,
McDougal.
McDougal, with 2 L's,
Yes,
Matt Dougal.
McDougal.
That's not on Z.
And then she's Mac Dougal.
And 2 L's, she made sure to tell us.
I know, I
last
remember
time
that.
1G.
At the end, which I don't know that I
At least,
really.
at least one you. I don't know how many years are in there, there's certainly some.
I know, that I know.
Okay, so we can move on from that one.
Okay.
The next one is town meeting, the town meeting itself. As it happens, I was summoned before the select board for another matter, and they were discussing town meeting on their agenda, so I stuck around. I'm supposed to liaise between us and them, so I'm liaising between us and them. I sent you some notes, I think, in the packet.
Yeah.
And so town meeting, last year, coming out of COVID, we had a lot of trouble with participation. Town meeting formed a committee, had a committee that had some recommendations, and then they also named a coordinator last year, and the coordinator last year was named Alice Kitchell, and she had a lot of help. And so she has been asked to be, and she's been named again, town meeting coordinator. And she's not as part of the committee, she's just Alice Kitchell, town meeting coordinator. And so she'll get a lot of help. And so in and around town meeting itself, the action and the day, it is not a function of the school, and it is not a function of school staff. The school staff participate, and the year-round staff mostly participates. It is more a function of the town. And so Alice Kitchell has been named the coordinator by the town. If you have anything, any requests at the front desk, to a principal, to a superintendent, to an assistant superintendent, to a board member, please direct those to me, and I'll take them to Alice because I'm Alice's assistant. With regard to town meeting. And
All
so,
town meeting questions go to you.
if you bring town meeting questions to me, I will take them to the town meeting coordinator and help her coordinate town meeting. And so some of this that she's gonna coordinate is babysitters, and she's gonna try to make sure that there's a meal and that sort of thing. And I'm trying to make sure the town meeting flows smoothly. And in the last year, a lot of the steps that were taken simply put back in place things that had previously existed to make town meeting better, because a lot of things have fallen off due to some things being missed on a year-to-year basis. We have a complaint in general about the sound in the gym.
We have new,
It should be fixed.
We had new last year too, and I sat there and one of the.
no, we have the system blew. We have brand new speakers and
Because the guy it died in the middle of last year, right in the middle of the meeting, and I got yelled at.
not,
I was there all day Monday and then most of Tuesday morning, and the sound system worked, and then it died, and then Terry.
Yeah,
He
it
said,
blew
"I'm not
altogether, so it's a new
Yeah.
thing. My
So-
advice to you would, as the assistant to Alice, is to talk to Scott
Yeah,
Martin.
so I've been emailed to Scott,
Make sure they
as soon as
set it
I speak to Alice, I'll start talking to
And
Scott.
that no one touches the controls in the weight room after you've got it.
Yeah, he'll assign me, he'll assign,
Conversation.
What?
We need to be part of this conversation. I don't mean to be rude, but all of us, this
No.
for like we're just planning for
the
us
rest of
or
it.
planning for like.
In the next set of questions that I have regarding this, is about the warning itself.
Okay, great.
And so in this first part of it, this is just, I'm telling you that
Logistics.
Alice is here,
Okay,
and then I'm telling these ladies, don't think that you have to answer questions on your own. And if you answer questions on your own, you're gonna, it might put us in a pickle. But the next part of after town meeting coordinator is the town meeting committee met for 18 months and then came to both boards with a recommendation. And the recommendation was to put ballot measures in your warnings about changing the charter of each of the municipalities, the town and the school, to remove the charter indication that all votes must take place the Australian ballot. Not to change it, just to remove that constraint. And we talked then about the town maybe doing it first, and then the school board seeing the results of that, or the school not doing it at all. Because I think it was brought up in the meeting that it seems more to disenfranchise parents with kids or working parents than anybody else. Changing, it doesn't actually make a change, it just makes it easier to change it, because currently we can't change it. And the finding of the town meeting committee was that having only the one option available limited.
Participation?
No, just social liberty or there's some series of phrases. So they wanted to change that municipal charter for the school in the town to eliminate the possibility or to eliminate the forcing of all votes to be the Australian ballot with regard to money and budgets. So you were being asked now, is that a ballot measure you're interested in pursuing?
no.
Can I just clarify, just for my own understanding, that means that if people want, that vote could change to be on the floor?
But not immediately.
Not
Right.
right.
You're saying
Right,
that
but
budgets
if-
could be
But you could then have that
Okay.
on the floor to change that all.
Yeah.
the budget
So
will
all
have to
the
be
That's what
on.
I thought you're,
parents that go in and vote after work
Mhm.
would not be able to vote.
right,
The significant portion of our town that does not go to town meeting.
Yeah.
Would not have a say in that.
that's what I was thinking. I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding it accurately.
So our taking no action is fine. Our not adding that as a ballot measure is fine. Our just telling, we can either tell the select board that this current iteration of the board disagrees, or we can tell them that this current iteration of the board wants to see.
Changing the charter.
But let's see what
We'll see what
happens when the
happens.
select board does it.
Right,
if
we
that's
want to
what they
see what
decide,
they
yeah.
happen to them and then
Yeah,
Okay, so we're gonna pass on those ballot measures.
what was Eric and Dave's thing.
Yeah, I don't see the necessity to do this. I mean, as I recall that presentation, there was 18,000 different configurations of town meeting, and the answer
Right.
was none of this actually matters and doesn't increase participation at
All
all.
that is, all of that is the truth. And what ended up happening was the people in the room and their respective passions just made the conclusions and they walked in with flying.
Right.
And removing the constraint doesn't benefit the people that go to work and then can't vote till the evening.
And to,
Having the constraints.
The constraint is only that you can only vote one way.
Right.
Is that you can't decide how you're gonna vote without a vote. So you can't decide to change this vote without a ballot measure.
Right.
And the
Which-
town is going to put forth to the voters whether or not they should change this. And so that's gonna come up. So if you don't wanna do that, we don't have to do that. And that's fine. The next question that the town had, and I've actually been pushing for this one a lot, is rather than the flip-flop, where the school board goes first one year and the town goes first the next year. Why doesn't the select board, who has many, many more things to talk about, and can like make it all the way to lunch, go ahead and go first, and the school board goes second? And in this year, it's supposed to be us going first. And then, even if we do a presentation that lasts 45 minutes, then it's only 10:45. And then it's not lunchtime. And then their meeting gets cut in half. And then we may not have a superintendent here. Because you guys, one of you will probably be Peachum, and one of you will probably be now at CCSD, I would think, at least one of those boards, because they're not voting, CCSD is now voting on town meeting day,
Yeah,
right?
they are.
So there's now 5, and Twinfield and Cabot are voting at town meeting day. There's,
Yep.
every other town votes on town meeting.
After lunch, you'll lose the crowd.
Okay.
Seen it happen. We've all seen it happen. It's just, if we're there at 10 and we take an hour. And your town starts, people are not going to go away and miss half the town meeting. I like it the way it is.
Okay.
Because I don't want to lose half a significant portion of the voters.
counter proposal, since we're so quick. Why don't we just do the whole kit and caboodle and then do lunch?
Because it's not always that quick. When you combine them, it's not always that quick.
Right.
They're gonna have 37 measures.
Sometimes we've been out of here 4:30.
They're gonna,
Right.
have yeah, they're gonna have 37 measures, and then they're gonna have an open-ended discussion at the end. So because they're having an open-ended discussion at the end, maybe they do belong at the end. And we belong at the beginning this year.
Well, I thought this said that why don't we have a specific time? And I think that makes, like, I think that was a part of the complaint too, was like, if the select board finishes at this time, the school board won't start till at least this time. I thought that's was talking about having a specific time that we started. Rather than, because what can happen now is it's like, oh, I want to be at the school board part, but you don't know when the school board part is. And sometimes you walk in and you're like, oh, all of town meeting is done.
Right,
Like last year was like, wow, town meeting's over.
At
And it was like,
11:30. See you at 1.
but last year, the town
Right.
meeting was over at 11:30, lunch wasn't ready, and then our meeting wasn't supposed to start till 1. It
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah,
right,
the gym emptied out.
right.
Right,
Yeah.
and Jim would be that. So
Yeah.
if we can, if you like it the way it is, does anybody have a problem with the way it is?
Listen, they're gonna wait for 180 years. I mean,
If you don't have a problem with
quote that number.
it, if you don't have a problem with it, then it's our turn to go first, and we're going at 10.
I like that.
So
Yeah, I guess I just wouldn't have a dead period in between, like, if we don't make it to lunch.
So if we do it the way that we are shorter, then they just kick right in right after. There's a
Yeah.
5-minute.
Right.
Don't do the, oh, it's 11:30, let's wait on this for a
Well, that's
little
what they were doing, because ours was scheduled for 1, they were stalling for time. They don't have anywhere else to go. So if then, it might turn out that the best way to do it is that we always go first.
Yeah.
But we'll know that after next year, because none of the select board members have anywhere else to go. They don't have another meeting or another town to deal with, just this town. And we only have a couple of administrators that have other places to go. No, I'm not saying there are other places to go. You can go anywhere you want. You misunderstood me. I just meant on that day, they don't have other responsibilities. So we can make no changes to what we're doing, and we can go first. And that's fine. And if I can just let them know that. Great. And then that's that. That's all I had. There is a town meeting coordinator. Do you want to do a ballot measure? And that was a consensus question, and the consensus was no. And then, do you want to go first or second? And it's our year to go first. And that's that.
Huzzah.
That was town meeting discussion, and we're moving on. Now, the next thing that we have is a tuition waiver request for a student. And really specifically, out of respect for this family's privacy, I'd like to do this in an executive session. And it's executive session based on 1 VSA 313A7. And that is the student academic records and or suspension of discipline. And so if there's no objection, I would need a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion.
Tim was going to give me a motion to go into executive session at 7:27. The motion to come out of executive session at 7:33.
I'll second.
I have a second to come out of executive session at 7:33. All in favor of coming out of executive session at 7:33, please say aye.
Aye.
We are
We're
recording.
out of executive session at 7:33. Recording's back on.
I would like to make a motion to approve the parent request.
I have a motion on the table to approve the parent request.
I'll second.
I have a second on the table to approve the parent request. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the parent request, please say aye.
Aye.
And Matt, you go ahead and take care of that for us for me.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you bringing this to us.
I appreciate the support.
All right. Public input? Anybody from the public like to say anything?
Nobody online.
Again, the public. All right, future agenda items. We're gonna have, I don't have it yet, and Matt doesn't have them yet, but he's gonna have them eminently. There's gonna be the warning. And we have to approve every aspect of the warning. We have to make sure it's right, and we all have to go over the numbers and make sure that it's exactly correct and with the articles on it.
No screw ups this year.
No screws this year. That's the plan.
That's my goal.
No screws this year. So you're gonna see the warning, and I'm gonna ask you to be very flexible, because as soon as he has the warning, he can get us off the list.
Yep.
We're gonna be one of the first ones off the
Yep.
list, so it's not fighting. And we're gonna talk about it on Friday, because this budget is approved, so we're gonna look at the old warnings, and I'm gonna go over them with Matt.
Yeah, you guys are the first
Seven-
ones approved with the budget done, so.
7 people signed that piece of paper last year.
2 years
And it
ago.
was wrong, or 2
2
years
years
ago.
ago. The good news is 2 years ago.
Yeah. So
Can I have
we
some
have
background?
it's our duty to make sure. it is
2 years ago, we had the right,
exactly.
we had the right written out number, but the
It was
wrong,
like
the right
different
number in
thing, and they were
digits,
like,
but the wrong number. in,
Written.
Written. We had an older number in written, and then we had the revote.
Thank
later.
you.
That's
No, I
pretty good.
appreciate that kind of attention to detail.
So we're a little
It
close.
was very accurate last year.
So but
15
expect,
decimal
expect to hear from me for a quick meeting, probably to approve that, and we'll have it in your hands before you look at it, but we all have to sign it too. So, but it's due on the 16th, I think.
Can't sign it until the 16th, the way I understand it. We're not able to sign warnings until the 16th.
Okay, so we're not able to sign.
That's the first day we can sign.
That's
There's
the
like
way
a week window.
Yeah, it's 40 days before the meeting. Also unrelated, now that I have the budget number, I have a letter to write for the town report. And so I'm gonna send the letter to you, and then you can send it to Molly, tear it up, send it back to me correctly written, and then I'll say I wrote it. When she rewrites it, I'll say I wrote it. It was me that wrote it. So next meeting date is, the next meeting is February, but there's gonna be a meeting in the meantime. So just be prepared for the regular February meeting, probably 2, 3, 2, 1.
Four.
What's the first, second, fourth? The fourth, okay, so 2, 4. So 2, 4 is a meeting. On next Monday, unrelated to this meeting, there is a meeting, we're having John Castle, who's from VREC, but he's also on the governor's, the Council for the Future.
Educational council, yeah.
Education, the Council for the Future of Education. He voted down the recommendation that they gave, but nobody else did. There was an article that came out that the governor's got some brand new proposal, and he's gonna fix it all. He's got it all fixed. But John's gonna come speak to the CCSU board. You may find it interesting. If you do, we're meeting next Monday night here, also on Zoom.
It's the 20th,
It's
right?
the 20th. Oh, what's next week?
13.
Oh,
Yeah,
13th.
so not next week, 2 weeks. So be ready for that one,
A letter came out from the governor today. I don't know if anybody else saw it.
just briefly.
Okay, there's kind of an itinerary in there that lists all the different topics they want to bring up over a 3 to 4 week period with 3 or 4 different councils or committees. And they're definitely aiming to do change the funding formula. And you can read in those topics and you'll be able to see the direction they're wanting to go.
Can Cheech can send a link out to that.
20th,
I'm
that's
sorry.
all.
Can you send a
I
link
will.
out to that?
I just didn't, it sounds like he had, I just didn't know if VSBA sent it
I'm
out.
just
So I
making sure
got tonight
that's-
from VSA. I'll send it out
Fine, I
tonight.
just making sure that
The
that's.
CCSU always meets on holidays. We never, every time we ever meet, it's a holiday. Because we meet on Monday.
That's a
We
public
may look
order.
to change that, actually.
It's really the one
Obviously,
about the
you know,
funding formulas.
And so that's the next meeting of us, that's the next meeting of them.
Oh, no, no, I
That
understand
makes
what you're
it
saying. That's not the
7:37.
letter from the
Adjourn.
governor.
I would
Yeah,
love to
Thank you.
adjourn.
Yeah, the
I
ones
have a
not
motion
public, and that's
adjourned
not even
from
really
Tim.
well written.
All in
if
favor,
there's
Yeah,
some
it's-
mistakes
the
that
second
are-
from Dave, all in favor of adjournment at 7:37.
Thank you.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Motion adjourned, meeting adjourned 7:38.
The February meeting is on President's Day.
Always.
Are we?